One of the most common questions women ask when considering a VBAC is whether it's safe. And it's a really important question to ask as well. The challenge is that safety isn't always as simple as being told something is either safe or unsafe. Every woman, pregnancy and birth is unique, and there are so many factors that can influence what feels right for you. In this video, I want to help you better understand some of the benefits, risks, and considerations surrounding VBAC so you can make informed decisions about your own birth. So what is a VBAC? VBAC stands for Vaginal Birth After Caesarean section. So I guess you're here because you've probably had a caesarean section and you're thinking about what to do next, or you want to have a VBAC. VBAC is basically simply means you just want to have a vaginal birth after previously giving birth by a caesarean section. Some women are exploring VBAC after one caesarean, and others might be considering after two caesareans, which is a VBAC after two, which is VBAC 2C, VBA 2C, yes, it's very confusing, which is a vaginal birth after two caesareans. You may also hear the term HBAC, which is HBAC, which stands for home birth after caesarean. Why safety isn't a one-size-fits-all? So when it comes to VBAC, there isn't one answer that applies to everybody. Your previous birth story, your history, the type of caesarean you've had, your current pregnancy, your current health, your baby's health, and the support available to you can all play a role in your decision making. That's why it's so important to look at your individual circumstances rather than relying on blanket statements. So quite often, women are told they can't have a VBAC, or that they're told that by one provider. And so that's why it's so important to understand all of this stuff so you can actually get the right information, because so many more women can have VBACs than we are led to believe. What are some of the benefits of a VBAC? There are many reasons why women choose to pursue a VBAC. Some of the benefits women often consider: avoiding major abdominal surgery, a potential shorter recovery period because you're not recovering from a major surgery, reduced surgical risks. Every time you have another surgery, another caesarean section, the risks do go up each time. And so it's really important to understand that each time you do have a caesarean, the risks do go up for different things. Less time in hospital. So a lot of the time when we have vaginal birth, some women can leave the hospital. I've had clients who have had VBACs who have left the hospital after 6 hours of giving birth. You can leave the hospital within 24 hours most of the time, provided that you haven't had huge tearing or there's nothing wrong with your baby's healthy and everything like that. Whereas in a C-section here in Australia, often it's basically a 3-day stay in the hospital, and other parts of the world, I'm sure, varies as well. But you should be staying in hospital a bit longer if you have a caesarean section, or offered at least. There's easier recovery while caring for older children. When you've got a toddler or a little one under tow, it's so much easier to care for a newborn and a little one when you're able to move around a lot more than recovering from C-section and not being able to get up out of the bed so easily because you've got this major cut across your stomach that you're healing for, and you can't even drive for 6 weeks as well. So that's a huge consideration. You're literally stuck at home for 6 weeks and not able to get to the doctor, get out to go food shopping and those sorts of things as well. The opportunity to experience a vaginal birth, because a lot of us want to experience a vaginal birth. We just have this innate knowing inside ourselves that this is something that we want to do. Now, what are some of the potential risks of a VBAC? Like all birth options, VBAC does come with risks. And one of the most commonly discussed risks is uterine rupture. If you are looking at VBAC or thinking about VBAC or telling people you want to have VBAC, this is one of the things that people are going to talk to you about. Oh, what about the uterine rupture risks? Or are you worried about a uterine rupture? Many women actually are told, if they have a uterine rupture, their baby will die. And that is not true. Nobody can say without 100% fact that your baby will die or you will die, and the evidence doesn't support that either. It's really important that we don't just take people's opinions, even when they're in the capacity of a healthcare provider like a doctor or a midwife, that we actually take what they're saying to us as truth. It's important to ask questions, please provide the evidence, please print out the evidence for me and actually understand what the evidence says, because it's very different from being told that you will die or your baby will die if that catastrophic thing happens. And from a space of knowing what that risk is, gives you a lot of power as well in understanding what the actual risk is and if that risk is something that you're willing to take. Assisted vaginal delivery is also a risk as well. So with any vaginal birth, there is a risk of a vacuum delivery or a forceps delivery. I think most of us are probably aware that that's a possibility with any vaginal birth that we plan, although there are ways to reduce that risk. I will also say vaginal tearing as well, and there are ways to reduce vaginal tearing risks as well, and individual pregnancy or medical circumstances as well. So some women are told if they have terrible heart conditions or something like that, potentially C-section might be a better way for them. Obviously, it's best to see a specialist in the area and ask really important questions to work out whether having major surgery or having a physiological birth is going to be safer for you, which is different to having a medical vaginal birth, just to let you know. You've got to think about the pathway that you want to go down to have a vaginal birth, and there are a few different options for you to consider when you go down that as well. So understanding a repeat C-section, something that often gets missed in VBAC conversations is that repeat C-sections also carry risks. So I think a lot of the time when women who are planning a VBAC, for me, I'll share my experience when I was going for a VBAC in the hospital system. Every single time I saw a provider, I was going through the public health system, seeing a random doctor every time. Even though they had my notes, they did not read my notes, and they just looked at me and said, so you're having a repeat C-section? And I said, no, I am not having a repeat C-section. I'm having a VBAC. And they said to me, so do you understand the risks of rupture? And I said, yes. And I rattled off all the risks, and they went, oh, you actually understand the risks. But they never at any point did they talk to me about the risks of a repeat caesarean or that choice. They offered it, or they assumed that that's what I was having, but at no point in time did they ever talk to me about those risks. And I find that not great. It's not great healthcare. Informed care is when you discuss the risk for this option, the risk for that option in a very open forum, and discussing what may be a better pathway for you and asking questions so that you can understand what options are available and what may be the best options to you. Understanding the risks for a repeat C-section is there's no... One thing I don't like is that often women are told, oh, it'll be a much easier, better time. And I just even interviewed a woman on my podcast the other day who had an emergency C-section for her first and then had a repeat C-section for her second, chosen one. And she was told that having a elective C-section was going to be a much more positive experience. It was going to be calmer. It was going to be nothing like the emergency C-section. However, she found that much more traumatic than her emergency C-section because A, she was told that and it didn't happen. B, things happened that she wasn't expecting and she wasn't informed about. And so can't be told that that path is going to be the easier path or that there's no risks. You absolutely should be told, and everyone should be made aware that there are risks on both sides. You can have a longer recovery. There's the risk of infection. I myself had, after my C-section, I had an infection after a couple of weeks later. And I ended up having to go for an ultrasound and getting checked out. I had a fever. Then I had to be put on antibiotics. And so that was from having staph infection on my skin. I did not know that that was a risk. I didn't expect it. And then when I spoke to other women who had had C-sections, I found out it was quite common because you're having major surgery. So there's always risk for infections to happen when you have a C-section. Bleeding, scar tissue formation. So when the surgery happens, you can have scar tissue forming inside. And for some women, that can actually cause some long-term problems where bowels and things get stuck together. I feel like I've been fortunate that I haven't had any of those issues, but I have seen many women discuss these issues, which can be quite painful and cause long-term problems as well. There's also placenta accretia as well as another one. So the more C-sections you have, the more risk of placenta accretia you have, which is when the placenta can grow into the previous C-section scar, it becomes a very dangerous situation for women as well. There are a plethora of risks that come with having C-sections, and these risks should be discussed with you by your healthcare provider when you're looking at your options as well. And then, of course, future pregnancy considerations. If you're planning on having, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, it's a really good idea to consider and weigh up which is going to be better, to have 6 cesareans or to have a VBAC and have multiple VBACs after. So here's some questions to ask yourself. What information am I basing my decision on? Because if you're basing your decision on your husband's fear or your partner's fear or your mother's fear or somebody else's fear, is that a good enough reason to choose to have major surgery? Have I had the opportunity to ask questions and explore all of my options? Do I feel supported by my care provider? What are the benefits and risks of each option available to me? What feels aligned with my values, my birth philosophy values, who I am and what I feel is right for me, my circumstances and goals for this birth? I don't believe there is one right choice for every woman. What I do believe is that women deserve evidence-based information. So I don't think that every woman should birth the same or birth the same way as me. I think that we're all unique. We all come with our own set of ideas, thoughts, where we feel safe, financial situations, all of that sort of thing. But I think that everyone deserves evidence-based information, supportive care, and the opportunity to make informed decisions about their own birth decisions. Because it's your body and it's your baby, and you live with the long-term impacts as well as the short-term impacts of those choices. Whether you're planning a VBAC, considering a repeat cesarean, or simply exploring your options, understanding the benefits and the risks of each pathway is one of the most empowering things you can do. The more informed you are, the more confidently you can make decisions that feel right for you and for your family. If you've had a cesarean birth and you're trying to understand your options, I've created a free VBAC starter kit guide to help you get started. Inside, you'll find information, guidance, and practical steps to help you feel more informed and confident as you prepare to birth. And you can just grab that down below, guys. So I'm going to love you and leave you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.